In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, discussing the tropics, where we have seen a slight uptick in the chances of tropical development across mostly the Gulf Coast. We're talking about Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, maybe Texas gets involved. We'll have to see. And we're going to be just really diving into that, talking about the weather around the nation. Is there still flooding risks around, as a lot of precipitation is still expected, although it is evolving. So we're going to be talking about the changes in it, as well as kind of diving into the temperature pattern for the next couple of weeks. Now, first things first, we're going to go ahead and discuss all the weather happening around the nation as we speak. We're going to work it from west to east. Obviously, it's a little less active right now than it was yesterday, so it's going to be easier to break down. But let's go ahead and talk about the four corner states real quickly. Now, as we talk about these states, we obviously see that around Colorado and down through New Mexico, there is a few showers, and especially down there in New Mexico, thunderstorms occurring. Most of these are lighter for Colorado, to maybe some isolated thunderstorms up there, but it's mostly these ones down here in southern New Mexico where we have a few severe thunderstorm warnings, a few flood watches. But as far as New Mexico goes as a whole, we had a lot of flood watches up, and now a lot of those have been alleviated. So this is good news in general. Obviously, still pay attention, as you never know if any are going to be added, or, we're going to see anything move in the wrong direction, but just pay attention. As we talk about the south central states, there's a few primary areas for flooding to watch for, and unfortunately, it just feels crazy, but we see the same areas here where we had terrible flooding happening in south central Texas. The same areas are seeing another round of it, as we have a lot of flood warnings, watches, advisories around, and some heavy rainfall with a more organized system there, bringing more consistent moderate to heavy rainfall. So unfortunately, another round of flooding perhaps for these areas. So please pay attention and just heed every watch, warning, and advisory, because obviously they can't handle much more precipitation. It's not going to take as much to create some bad things down there, unfortunately. We could see areas from Houston all the way through southern Louisiana also dealing with heavier, more tropical downpours and thunderstorms happening in here. So there is a couple of special weather statements for those thunderstorms occurring, like New Orleans there, as well as south central Louisiana. We also see, as we look northward, for areas of eastern Oklahoma, northwestern Arkansas, there's some flood watches up, and a few thunderstorms going on in those areas as well. Now, we'll separate this by southeast and northeast, but we do see a lot of activity down here in Florida. A few special weather statements, a few what are they called, special marine statements as well. One there for the big lake in central Florida. I don't know why I'm blanking on what that's called. A few flood watches as well along that southeast coast of Florida, which it takes a lot for there to be flooding in Florida, by the way, because it's an area that is used to seeing a ton of rainfall. Obviously, the environment, the soil is adapted to these high rates of precipitation, so it is harder to get flooding there, but we do have the watches up for Miami northward all the way to kind of like the Port St. Lucie area, kind of just south of there as well. So we are seeing flooding between those two areas. Thunderstorms are abundant throughout Florida, as it typically is, but we're seeing heavier precipitation because our tropical disturbance is just off the east coast of Florida and is expected to move over Florida. So expect more precipitation before it's said and done. Looking northward, really for all of these states, they're just isolated and scattered thunderstorms around. So it's hard to really break it down, but there is just thunderstorms around, so be mindful of that. Looking at the more northern portion of the eastern states, we do see from Maine southward through the entire mid-Atlantic, there is thunderstorms around. We had a really bad one here in southeast Virginia that's brought some flooding advisories for the entire area. So really bad flooding. These thunderstorms, a lot of them, especially on the eastern end of things, are very stagnant. If you guys are watching the radar, these thunderstorms are just sitting there almost, hardly even moving. So it's very easy to see an inch plus of rainfall very quickly because, again, it's not moving. These heavy thunderstorms are just sitting over one exact spot, and that creates its own set of problems. We do see a more moving system that is moving from west to east that is sweeping through, and this is going to bring another line of thunderstorms and showers. That is why we have flood watches up for a lot of the mid-Atlantic here, from south central Virginia northward all the way through DC, Maryland, Pennsylvania, parts of Delaware, New Jersey, New York, into southern New England, like Massachusetts and Connecticut. So many different counties dealing with these potential flooding conditions here in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast as well. Now, as far as our tropical disturbance or tropical concern, the low is again right here. It's very similar to Chantal, at least this blob of percent chance, but it's moving in a completely opposite way. So it is very, very different despite this risk area looking almost identical. Obviously, Chantal moved northward towards the Carolinas and Virginia. This one is expected to move across Florida. I wanted to talk to you guys about something here. First off, we'll go over the percent chance real quickly. We have slightly upgraded from a 20 to a 30% chance of development over the next 7 days. And in the 2-day range, so just within the next 48 hours, we've gone from a 0% chance to a 20% chance. So we're still sitting at a yellow risk. It goes yellow, orange, red. We're still in a yellow low chance, but we are moving closer to a moderate chance of development, getting a little closer to that 50-50 odds of development. And I wouldn't be surprised to see this one develop, especially we're going to talk about some variables, but our low is somewhere out here. If it dips lower and moves through the southern extent of this range and then moves northward, which is kind of what would be expected, you're getting a lot more time over open, very warm waters. This is going to increase the chance of development if we see that happen. If it swings through in a more mid-range, so the more medium amount of time over water, then you're looking at, a middle ground chance of development. If this low kind of hugs the northern part and is much more up there, then we are seeing the lowest potential for development. So the track of this low is going to really dictate if it develops or not. Even if it does take the very long route, let's say like swinging way wildly underneath, there's still a chance it won't develop. But this gives it the very greatest odds of becoming a tropical depression, tropical storm, or even, God forbid, a hurricane. So we're going to need to watch this one. I know it's sitting at a yellow risk, it's sitting at a low chance, and everybody's probably disregarding it because of that. But I always say that almost every single tropical system starts out as a yellow low risk and then starts to kind of creep up into that more mid-range risk and then eventually a red and then develops. Obviously, much more of them than not end up not really developing and dissipating. But this is how the bad ones start and the ones that never happen. So it doesn't really rule out anything. We need to still very closely pay attention to this, as we're going to do on the channel daily here. So tune in with us for these daily updates on this potential tropical system. Now let's dive into the upcoming pattern. First things first, we're talking about the precipitation. We can see our tropical low here, by the way, and all of the precipitation caused by it. We do see that this looks very accurate to what's happening today. I mean, we see a lot of activity in the south central states and then up the eastern states with not a lot anywhere else, really. As we continue going towards Tuesday, tomorrow on the 15th, we do see more widespread activity in the east. I would say you see your tropical area. We see thunderstorms throughout the south central and Midwest and Ohio Valley, and then also up and down the eastern states. But we've kind of added in this northern Rockies, northern plains, upper Midwest area with some heavy rainfall here for Tuesday on the 15th. Looking a little further towards Wednesday on the 16th, we do see, again, 4 corner states now northward through into the northern Rockies, northern plains, upper Midwest. So these areas seeing their second day of heavy precipitation. We're taking notes because of the flooding probabilities. We see a whole lot of disturbance around off the southeast, here in the north central and northeastern Gulf. So this is, again, where we have that probability and chance of things developing. And we really see thunderstorm chances all around. I mean, when you look east of the Rockies, more chances than not have a really good chance of seeing thunderstorms around. So it is a stormy day, Wednesday on the 16th. Looking towards Thursday on the 17th, we do see a lot of, again, the 4 corner states, South Central, Southeast, Ohio Valley, Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. All of these areas seeing chances of thunderstorms. Friday on the 18th, we do see that our tropical disturbance has basically brought thunderstorms to a lot of the Gulf Coast. The main area of disturbance is probably here by this point. So by Friday on the 18th, this one we will have found out if it's going to develop or not, essentially. As we keep going towards Saturday, on the 19th, we see that if this one doesn't develop, we actually end up seeing days of just thunderstorms and showers from it still for the Gulf Coast. So that's kind of your minimal impacts, is just days and days of more storminess here for the Gulf Coast, which is nothing that you guys aren't used to, but it's certainly worth noting that that is the cause of this. And it might be a little bit more tropical in nature as far as those downpours, cooler temperatures, more windy because of it, things like that. We do see the Four Corner states and surrounding states dealing with these monsoon type storms. And then we even see still the Midwest, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic seeing these thunderstorms by Saturday the 19th. Sunday on the 20th, what we're seeing is the eastern states very active again. And this does extend back through the northern plains here. So something like that is where we're primarily seeing chances of thunderstorms and showers. Monday on the 21st, again, eastern states, some of the upper Midwest as well, seeing these heavier bands of thunderstorms. Tuesday on the 22nd, still the southeast, still the Ohio Valley, and still the Mid-Atlantic involved. These are your areas that are going to be seeing repetitive storminess, especially actually these northern areas compared to what's normal for them. The daily thunderstorms are common for these deep southeast areas, but when you look northward, it is not common at all to see daily occurrences of these thunderstorms. So when we look at the compared to normal map, you're going to see that these areas are much further above average than the southern counterparts. Northwest getting a little bit active here as well by the 22nd. Daily emojis. Let's take a look at the 23rd here, and that's going to be Wednesday. Still the deep south and southeast and mid-Atlantic involved. Northern Plains, Northern Rockies, some monsoon activity still ongoing. So really not looking to slow down too much anytime soon. Thursday the 24th here, maybe another round of tropical concerns. This is about 11 days from now, and it looks like there could be some chance of formation there. We were able to kind of predict that we would see another area of disturbance in the area that we are currently seeing one a week plus out. If you guys keep up with our videos daily, you know that is true, that we have been really, really hammering home that I think the homegrown, very close to the United States tropical development is going to be a trend that continues through July. We saw Chantel, and now we're seeing another potential chance, and now maybe pointing out a third chance of that happening here, more on the western Gulf side of things, but time will tell, of course. Certainly don't need it. This is a little too close to Texas for comfort. Friday on the 25th, we see that for the most part kind of break down, which would be very good news. Some thunderstorms and showers around the Gulf Coast. More expanded monsoon activity here for Colorado and New Mexico, where flooding chances might just persist through late July. Northeast and Great Lakes really getting going with some precipitation as well for this date. Saturday on the 26th, monsoon activity really extending all the way to the northern Rockies. Some areas in the Central Plains, lower Midwest, Ohio Valley seeing some heavier stuff. Florida getting another active spell. Again, any of this could spell a chance of tropical development, so maybe another chance. Sunday on the 27th, we see this kind of moves over. Very similar to our current chance. We see a lot of this just moving over Florida more towards the Central Gulf, so we'll be watching for that. Upper Midwest going again with a lot of thunderstorm activity for Sunday on the 27th. Monday on the 28th, everything's kind of moving along. And this is where we end the model run here with a lot of activity throughout the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Ohio Valley. Some tropical concerns along the Gulf Coast. And things have certainly slowed down more for the central states, which is very, very good news. Total precipitation does look a little elevated where we have this tropical threat. But we can tell there's a ring around it where there's a lot less activity pretty much in all the surrounding areas. This is purely caused by this tropical threat. I shouldn't say purely, but this area likely would be no different without this disturbance being there. It would be much below normal precipitation, and the only thing holding it up closer to normal is this tropical disturbance. We could tell that the flow of things is a frequent storm track from the kind of western areas of Canada down into the northern plains, Midwest, Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. That is the theme over the coming weeks, as well as a frequent monsoon activity here for the Four Corner states. That is the theme here, precipitation-wise, and the anomalies really, really reflect that. Near normal to, varying levels of above or below normal there for the Four Corner states. This is monsoon season. They are fairly typical, so this isn't something that is extremely abnormal for those areas. We do see above average precipitation where this disturbance is, again, but the surrounding areas in almost every direction are below average, as we mentioned earlier, where you see it's surrounded by below average precipitation. And the real area seeing the most above average precipitation is this region right here with this frequent storm track. That is my current thoughts. Now let's go ahead and dive into the temperatures. Here's the past 3 days. We've seen a warmer west, cooler central, warmer east. It's kind of split into 3 separate sections. Typically it's two halves. We're looking at 3/3 here. That is the pattern we've, for the most part, been stuck in. Let's discuss the upcoming temperatures, though. And as we kind of move along, we can see the west stays pretty warm. We see the north central seeing its fair share of cooldowns. But over time, especially as we approach like the 20th and beyond, we see a much cooler west start to be the trend, which is called a negative PNA. This would overall encourage warmth into the central and into the eastern states over time, and might spell another heat wave as we move into later July, if this is the case, which would be similar, maybe not as extreme, but similar to our June heat wave that we saw towards the mid to late portion of that month. And this really just sits around there. We start to see the west warming up and the east coast looking a little cooler, but the central states really, really hot for a prolonged period of time there from the 20th through the 29th, which is a little concerning. These areas tend to get very hot when they have heat waves, and that could be coming up soon. With all that being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.